if one is at the highest court in the land, making decisions that at a very high level affect industries, major industries of all kinds, some of the biggest industries in the country in so many ways, and someone like Harlan Crow, intimately involved in so many of those industries, is making gifts and the gifts aren't disclosed, it's reasonable to say it's more than just dotting a T. It goes to questions of, well, what decisions might we see differently had we known that a pillar of industry had made an undisclosed contribution to one of the 9 people making the decision?
As if the diminishment of his person, which is what this is really about, this is an effort to discredit him as a person. He's beneath contempt. This has haunted him from day one of his service to this country. And the reason ultimately is he's a conservative. He's a Black man who's a conservative. He's dangerous for that reason.
David Pakman once again gets embarrassed on his own show by this based conservative right here on the screen. He absolutely demolishes David Pakman and all of his woke talking points. It's not very hard. Like I said before, David Pakman doesn't have the largest IQ, but at the same time, this guy absolutely demolishes and does a great job at demolishing all of David Pakman's woke talking points. Let's get into this clip here where David Pakman gets embarrassed on his own show once again.
Recently, at the Supreme Court. Just what a wonderful field trip for these kids. Anyway, so, okay, that didn't add up to a political program, but those are people whose work I admire.
Yeah. You mentioned Clarence Thomas. I mean, listen, since you mentioned it, I guess I'll ask. Your friendship with Clarence Thomas is a known entity. I haven't been able to find you saying anything too definitive about some of the allegations about the gifts from Harlan Crow and the loan that was forgiven for the RV without disclosure. Do you think he did anything unethical at this point based on the allegations that are out there?
No, I don't think he did anything unethical. I'll just say that baldly. Nothing that I think it's worth us pausing about. I mean, some I's could have been better dotted and some T's better crossed. I'm not saying that there is absolutely nothing to criticize in the way that Justice Thomas has handled this issue, but he is not a corrupt man.
I didn't use that word yet.
He's a long way from being rich. A lot of people in politics are multi-millionaires. He's not one of them. Mm-hmm. Did he accept some gifts that he could have reported differently? I mean, I don't know, frankly, and I'm prepared to say, yes, he might have and he well might have. Mm-hmm. But listen, this guy has been sitting on the Supreme Court for over 3 decades. He's a pillar of American law. This nitpicking, oh, he didn't dot this I, he didn't cross this T, as if he were a corrupt man. He is not a corrupt man. As if the diminishment of his person, which is what this is really about, this is an effort to discredit him as a person. He's beneath contempt. This has haunted him from day one of his service to this country. And the reason ultimately is he's a conservative. He's a Black man who's a conservative. He's dangerous for that reason. And people seek to discredit him. Yes.
100%, dude. I mean, dude, they go after every conservative, right? But a lot of times it's a whole lot easier than it is to go after someone like Clarence Thomas, because all these other conservatives out there, like Donald Trump, for example, I know he's not the most conservative man in the world, but let's just say he definitely does lean on the side of conservatism versus liberalism. It's easy to go after him. They could just say, oh, he's a racist. You know, he doesn't like Black people because he's white and he's a straight white man. So you can say he's racist, homophobic, sexist, all this stuff. But with someone like Clarence Thomas, these people worship, you know, the people that look like him. They fall at their knees. They feel guilty about what their ancestors did in the past. So it's hard to go after someone like Clarence Thomas, who was a Black conservative, because he's Black and they don't like to go after Black people. So you have to go find other things to go after him about. You have to go fabricate some stuff. And like this guy said, I think his name's Glenn Lowry. Like he said, I'm sure there's some things that he messed up on. I'm sure there's things in every single politician's life that they messed up on that you can go and find and try and get them removed from their positions for doing so. Probably a whole lot worse than anything Clarence Thomas has done. But they're going to go find those things because he is a conservative, and there's not another reason for it. That's the only reason why they're going to go out and find those things. And I'll say that with 100% confidence. They always do it. You know, every single conservative out there, they go and find everything that they possibly can in order to get them out of their positions of power. That's just how the left works.
He's my friend, and I'm proud to call him that.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on this. I guess the counterpoint of, you used the word corrupt twice. I haven't used it at all so far. Just to be clear, I didn't introduce the word corruption. I think the concern, and it seems like a reasonable concern, would be if one is at the highest court in the land making decisions that at a very high level affect industries, major industries of all kinds, some of the biggest industries in the country in so many ways. And someone like Harlan Crow, intimately involved in so many of those industries, is making gifts and the gifts aren't disclosed. It's reasonable to say it's more than just dotting a T. It goes to questions of, well, what decisions might we see differently had we known that a pillar of industry had made an undisclosed contribution to one of the 9 people making the decision.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
It seems potentially very relevant.
Okay, I can't disabuse you of that thought. That's
okay.
A hypothesis that you're going to entertain. Was Thomas's performance in the law influenced by the gratuities that might have come his way because of his relationship with Harlan Crow or others? I don't think so, but we're going to have to come to our own conclusions about that. What I want to say, though, is that he's not the only person with rich friends.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people with rich friends. Some of them are sitting in the Oval Office of the United States of America. They're everywhere I look. Politics is, I'm going to use the word corrupt again, in a much more central way. We pay these people a pittance. The people who are serving our government are paid $300,000 or $400,000 a year. I'm sorry for the way it sounds, but in Power Alley America, that's not a lot of money.
That's true.
How did Nancy Pelosi get to be Nancy Pelosi? With due respect, I don't mean any disrespect in saying that. I'm saying she's not any different than anybody else in that game. So that's why I say, let's try to keep perspective on this.
Yeah, that actually is a really good point. You're trying to criticize Clarence Thomas for accepting gifts when literally every single politician in the world is bought and paid for. Like, let's be honest, like every single one of them, except for maybe like Matt Gaetz, I think is one that doesn't accept money. I'm pretty sure he doesn't accept money from AIPAC specifically, but he probably does have donors. I mean, he definitely has donors and lobbyists and things like that. Everybody answers to those people. That's who really pays these people's bills. Yeah, they might get a certain salary from the government, but their donors and their lobbyists, that's who really pay their bills. That's how they become multimillionaires. And I think if we really want to solve corruption, I don't think we need to be worried about people like Clarence Thomas. I think we need to start abolishing the donor class, start making it illegal to accept donations from people, and just start paying these people a flat salary. That's the way that you abolish corruption. That's the way you get rid of all of corruption in politics, is stop with this donor stuff, stop with this lobbyist stuff that these people actually answer to, and start forcing them to actually answer to the American people who aren't putting money in their pockets. Because, like, I mean, if you were in their position, you'd probably do the same thing. Like, let's be honest. If you're in their position, you're probably also going to accept the money. And then with that money, you're expected to make certain decisions that benefit these lobbyists and these donors. That's not in the best interest of the American people. And people wonder, the left always wonders why these politicians keep making decisions that make the rich richer. Well, it's because the rich are paying their bills, idiots. They're putting money into their pockets. And instead, you're worried about people like Clarence Thomas, who is accepting gifts and not that expensive in comparison to these other people and what they're accepting. You're worried about Clarence Thomas? You need to be worried about all of your politicians who are accepting gifts from China, from our enemies, and from the people who are running this country into the ground on purpose, if you know what I'm saying. That's who you need to be worried about, not Clarence Thomas accepting a gift. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, Glenn, the reason that to me is a concern is it sounds like you're sort of saying, even if it was wrong, he doesn't make that much money compared to other people, therefore it's okay, which if it violates the canons of judges, it violates the canons of judges.
I'm not conceding that point at all. What was wrong? That he changed his vote for some gratuity? I don't believe that for a minute.
No, I'm not making that argument.
Excuse me, let me just say this, David.
Yeah.
His principled justification for his jurisprudence has a foundation that's a quarter century old. He didn't just come to the view because somebody passed some bucks to him under the door. That's what he actually believes.
Yeah, no, and to be clear, my only point was that when you say it's really not that big of a deal because at the end of the day, these people are underpaid, it sounds like a justification rather than an actual defense of the action.
No, all I mean to say is, if you're Stephen Breyer, retired justice of the Supreme Court, if you're Ruth Bader Ginsburg or somebody like that, and I don't mean any disrespect to these people.
Okay.
You have rich friends. Okay. So that is what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm just saying Justice Thomas is no different in that respect than a large number of people serving at the top of American government who have rich friends.
Yeah. And what he's saying by rich friends, for those who can't read between the lines, I'm sure you already know, but he's trying to make the insinuation without actually saying these things. What he means by rich friends are people who are paying off these politicians to make certain decisions in Congress and pass certain laws, do things like that, not pass certain laws and regulations that benefit their rich friends. That's what he's saying. And that's 100% correct. Instead, they're just focusing on Clarence Thomas and people like that because they're conservatives, when in reality, this is a very widespread political issue. Clarence Thomas accepting a gift from one of his friends is not the real issue here. It's the overall issue. It's the overall political landscape that is the issue right now.
I'm not aware of other Supreme Court justices who, while on the court, received gifts that were supposed to be disclosed, but they didn't. That's a material difference. Will you concede that?
Well, I would if I were going to concede supposed to be disclosed, and I understand that that's in dispute, but okay, you know.
All right, that's fine. So I want to talk to you a little bit about wokeness and cancel culture. I am not what I think is perceived by some to be part of the woke or cancel culture left. I am not big on using identity to silence. I am big on understanding how identity might give an interesting perspective. I, as a Jewish person, may have experiences of anti-Semitism that someone else doesn't. So it seems relevant to listen to me, but I don't get to use my identity as a cudgel to silence others. That's been my view on the identity politics issue. I'm curious whether you are seeing that the woke cancel culture wing of the left, which I argue is relatively small, but we can talk about that. Has it peaked and things are starting to swing the other way? I'll tell you anecdotally, I'm seeing more and more people with my brand of leftism, which is skeptical of the cancel everyone, speech policing, identity politics stuff. I'm glad to see that as someone on the left who doesn't like that. Where do you see that movement right now?
Well, I'm actually married to somebody on the left. Her name is Lawan Lowry, my lovely wife. And she's very much on the left. And she actually shares the sentiment that you just gave voice to about cancel culture. She thinks it's passe. And, you know, she's much more interested in $25 an hour minimum wage or whatever than she is in policing what words somebody is speaking or whatever. So, and she's not alone. I'm sure that she's not alone. And yeah, I think it's kind of peaked for.
We all knew that was a fad, right? We all knew that was a trend. The problem is with that trend and that fad of them policing every word that comes out of people's mouths and words hurting their feelings so much is that a lot of people actually lost their livelihoods. A lot of people got canceled over it. Regular people I'm talking about, not, you know, celebrities who can bounce back. I'm talking about regular people getting fired from their jobs for things that they tweeted 10 years prior. A ton of that happened. So that's the issue with that. And then, and now it's like, yeah, you're moving on from cancel culture a little bit, you know, a decent amount, to where you're not canceling people for things that they're tweeting anymore. But now you're getting canceled for not sticking certain things in your arm, and you get fired from your job for that. So it's like, yeah, cancel culture, I don't think it's gone. I think it kind of moved. I think it's moving around. It moved from words that you say on Twitter to now, how much have you stuck the needle in your arm and stuff like that. So I don't think it's over. I don't think it's gone. I don't think it's going anywhere. I just think it's kind of moving around as to what you can get canceled for. Let me know in the comments, though, what you guys think about David Pakman and him getting destroyed and owned on his own show once again. like I said, I think Glenn Lowry did a great job here. It's not very hard to own someone like David Pakman, but like I said, he did a great job, better than I could do. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole David Pakman versus Glenn Lowry situation.